too many times we just think of hope as something that's out there. It's next. Well, what about now? Forget next. Let's talk about now, because now affects next. So to me, hope, am I hopeful? I, I don't get into that. I get into what do we need to do, you know? So that's extreme practicality.
So, Corky, how did you hear about us? How did you end up on our television show, Underground News?
Well, first of all, tell me what year, and it'll put it in
Uh,
perspective.
we went on the air as a printed show on July 1st of 1970, but November 16th of 1970, Chuck Collins joined me, and we became a live on tape show out of the Channel 44 studios in Lincoln Park. By the time I met you, we were shooting our show in Glenview at the Telemation Studios when you brought Jim Schwall and your band to us. So this would have been in the year 1972, 50 years ago, at Telemation Studio in Glenview. So had you known about Underground News before you were on the show?
No, because I didn't know about anything.
You're just a musician.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
It
meant
took.
which meant what? What is a musician that doesn't know about Underground News?
Well, we just, me and Jim and the band, we just took things day by day. I wasn't involved in anything other than trying to make music and, keep the band going and do all that.
Let's talk about your musical partner, Jim Schwall, for a moment.
Yeah.
I believe he did become political. He ran for mayor of Madison, Wisconsin. Tell me about Jim Schwall and his activism or his politics or how maybe that interplayed with your music.
Yeah. Well, Jim was always a humanitarian. He really cared about others, and he acted upon that. And he ran for mayor in Madison for that reason, because he felt like the people weren't being treated right, and he wanted to change the politics by running for mayor. His intention wasn't to win. His intention was to change the politics, and he was actually able to do that and get the person in there he thought was going to be able to help. So uh, he did that. He also was um, involved in getting 300 homeless people housed in Madison, and got them permanent care. He did a lot of work in that area. So, just a beautiful human being, Jim Schwall.
Have you tracked the influence that Jim had on your audience and on the public? Have you seen effectiveness from him? Did he affect you? Did he get you a little more political?
Oh, in that sense, well, first of all, neither one of us were ambitious. All we wanted to do was play music. We never thought of a thing called a career. All that happened to us. We produced Joni Mitchell's demo tape with Circle Game on it, and then she got a record deal from that. That was just happened to us. We were writing music with these two guys named Rado and Ragney in Chicago for a number of months. We didn't know it, but we were writing the predecessor to Hair. They later asked us to write the music to Hair, but we were on the road and we didn't do that. So all these things like that were happening to us. I call myself an innocent victim of incredible good fortune. The other thing that happened, it was 1965, we got that gig at Peppers, of all places. Not us going to sit in at these blues clubs, but us being hired to be the house band to host all these blues masters. I mean, just right out of, we were still in college. And then, while we were still in college, 1966, this guy used to come into Big John's, where we got the gig at Big John's to fill in for Paul Butterfield, who went on the road. This guy kept coming in night after night after night after night. Obviously, he was a big fan. He comes over to me and he says, Corky, I'd like your band to jam with my band. And I'm thinking, who is this guy and what's his band? It was Seiji Ozawa. And he wanted us to perform with the Chicago Symphony. And so that's how I got into that whole classical blues juxtaposition thing, which I'm still doing today. to go. Yeah, goodbye, baby. Bye bye, baby, got to go. I ain't gonna hang around here. Let this trouble bug me no more.
Give me your inspiration then, Corky. Where'd you grow up? I grew up in the west side of Chicago in North Lawndale and then East Rogers Park. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up on the south side, 800 South Euclid. And when I got interested in music, there must have been a political inspiration that was subtle because I always wanted to cross the tracks and hang out in the black neighborhoods. So I had a little trio. I played saxophone, I had a drummer and a guitar player, and just playing some rock and roll stuff and going into the neighborhoods and performing and really were welcomed and felt really good in those neighborhoods better than we felt in our own neighborhoods. So when Jim and I started performing, it was the same thing, and we walked into this one club looking for just somewhere to play. I had a little Wurlitzer piano and drums under the piano. We were sort of like a one-man band, and uh, we walked into this club, and the guy hired us immediately to play every Thursday night from 9 at night till 4 in the morning. And we were playing some blues music like from Howlin Wolf and Muddy Waters, and then some of our own material. We just had that little repertoire, and really were idolizing the people we heard on those records, Howlin Wolf and Muddy. And so here we are, hired to play every Thursday night at this place, which we didn't realize Pepper's Lounge was an iconic blues club. And the first night we play there, who shows up on stage with us? Muddy Waters, and then Howlin Wolf, and then Willie Dixon, and Little Walter, and all the blues masters are playing there on stage with us night after night. And and Johnny Pepper, the owner, didn't want us to do the two-man band, so every Thursday he'd hire us a different bass player and drummer. And these were all these famous blues bass players and drummers that were playing with us. And this is how we got our start in blues, playing every Thursday night at Pepper's Show Lounge, with all these blues masters taking us under their wing.
Now, were you headed for blues? Is that the music you listened to on the South Side? Is that the places you visited and wanted to be like? How did you end up in blues?
Yeah, well, I was learning to play the harmonica a little bit, more of a Bob Dylan kind of a thing. And a neighbor heard me playing the harmonica and came over and brought over the Howlin' Wolf and the Muddy Waters album and the Jimmy Reed album. And I fell in love with it. And I was dancing around my parents' house in ecstasy to this music. And then I started trying to learn a little of it on the piano, and just tried to get that feeling. I wanted to, try and get that feeling of expression. And I would just play this little shuffle, dum 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 doo dum doo dum doo dum doo, over and over and over, driving everyone in my house nuts, just trying to dig deeper and deeper. And that's how I got just fell in love with the music. It just gave me goosebumps, and I was just laughing when I was playing. And like I say, listening to the records, I was dancing around. So here I am at Pepper's Show Lounge, and all of a sudden, the very people I'm listening to on record are coming up and playing with us. It's unbelievable. Every Thursday night.
Did you kind of like introduce something new to those musicians? Or did you just get the respect because you were on your way to becoming like them?
No, in fact, you hit it. You hit the nail on the head. Um, they loved the fact that we didn't sound like them and that we weren't trying to imitate them, that we were bringing something a little new to the experience. But what I explained is said, hey, when I heard Howlin' Wolf, I wanted to be Howlin' Wolf. I tried my damnedest to try and be Howlin' Wolf. But after 30 seconds, I realized that wasn't going to happen. And what you hear is me just doing the best I can to play blues, but it came out entirely different because I didn't have that skill level. and and Wolf loved it. As a matter of fact, he came to the North Side to sit in with us, ended up taking us on the road with him to New York. And he said, you guys are not trying to imitate us, and we really love that. So that was the deal for us. That was 1965.
Did you have any shared experience, let's just say in the world of blues, and I'll take blues to mean a difficult world, a world
Oh,
where you're not recognized, you're not respected, you're legally a low person in the scale. Um, did you did you come from a blues background where you were the underdog, or did you
no.
just embrace the music and did you eventually learn what the blues meant to the other musicians?
Yeah, I was not the underdog. I was always the overdog. I I was privileged. And like I said, the part of the inspiration of going into the crossing the tracks and going into the black neighborhood was I'd look out the window. My parents would tell me this is a free country. We treat everyone equally. I look out the window and find out that wasn't true. And I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin, in my own neighborhood. And so I went over there. Now, I wasn't real conscious that that's what I was doing. But in retrospect, I realize now why I ended up there. That's where I was comfortable. And I think the players, with Butterfield and Bloomfield and Charlie Musselwhite and Harvey Mandel and all these white kids, we loved these blues masters, and the blues masters realized that and shared the love and gave the love back. And I think that's what was happening. The story is about love, more than about music or anything. It was really that kind of a thing.
Now there's a culture here. So matter of fact, there's overlapping cultures. So you're in a African American culture, you're in a blues culture, a music culture, a '60s culture. How did all those kind of integrate?
I was very I can't think of the word. I'm 78 and my memory is a thing of the past. I was not aware of anything. I just was playing music. I really wasn't aware. I was very, very. Um, I can't think of the correct word, so unaware will have to do for now. um, and uh, it wasn't until later years that I realized we're on this earth for others, you know, and we take care of ourselves so we could take care of others. We have to be in good shape so we could spread our kindness and our love.
You originally were together, the Siegel-Schwall Band, and had a couple of albums out, and then you broke up. And then after you broke up, well, really, your group became more popular after it broke up than it was when it was going together for the first time. Is that why you got back together the second time?
Not
Because
really.
something. Why did you get back together?
It
What
was
happened?
just Jim and I felt that, musically we could work well together.
That's all it was. That's simple.
Really,
There wasn't any
that
other.
was the only reason.
Why did you break up in the first place?
I'm not going to tell you.
You won't tell us. Is that a personal secret?
It's not personal, but yeah, it's personal.
You, Corky, and I think Jim too. Well, you don't have any managers and you don't have any agents, which is really unusual for a band these days. Why?
Well, there's a whole lot of reasons. One is, when you're working with promoters, there's no chance of misrepresentation. I handle it myself, and I know if I make mistakes, I face my own mistakes, and that's it. And we don't have to worry about taking advantage of anybody.
Besides those guys,
Why don't you get a little bit closer?
blow a cigar smoke in your face all the time. It's annoying.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we hear some more music, okay?
Why?
Okay, why? Because we like you.
Well, I've told you about Louise and what she did to please me. Sometimes she'd love me till I thought that I would faint. I think I told you about Claudette and some of her greasy girlfriends I've met. But those chicks just don't know what's right or what ain't. But as soon as you came around, I knew I would have to settle down. Babe, do just like you did last night, and I won't have no complaints. I'm in love with your hair, and I like the way you wear your clothes. You wear just about as little as the law will allow, especially in summer. The first time I saw you, well, I knew I'd end up with you. But at that time, I wasn't sure just how. I couldn't slow down enough, not even for your sweet stuff. But I think I'm ready to slow down. Take a look out the window and tell me what you see. The sun's gone down, babe. You know what you promised me. Promised me.
1968 Chicago was one hell of a year. I don't know where you were at the Democratic Convention, but I was there. Did you get pulled into any of that? Did you have sympathies for that? Did that enter into your music at all?
Again, I wasn't paying attention to a lot of that stuff, but we were in San Francisco at the time. And I think we were driving back to Chicago. And I would say I didn't get involved purposely, but in later years, I was on a campaign with Reverend Chuck Geary. I was supporting his campaign for mayor, and Scott Simon was his campaign manager, who is the NPR guy that started All Things Considered,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
so I was working with Scott Simon, and I, uh, Chuck Erie's son, ended up getting arrested because they were being harassed a lot. I mean, I think he was arrested for good reason, as it turns out. I didn't necessarily know that one way or another, but I did bail him out of jail.
Well, thank you. That was very
And when
nice
I
of you.
got home, 3 plainclothesmen beat me up. They broke into my house, beat me up, tore my house apart, and said, "You should mind your own business." And they had pulled their guns. They were about to shoot me, but they thought, uh, to make a long story short, they thought that I was the money behind this whole Chuck Erie campaign. And when they saw my apartment, they realized that wasn't the case. So instead of shooting me, they just beat me up. That's what they told me. So I was
Uh,
involved in politics whether I wanted to or not.
was this the Chicago Police Department's infamous Red Squad? Did you
I
later
think
find
so.
out?
They called the
Uh,
Dirty Dozen, right?
they've been called a lot of things, and I can think of a few more. Uh,
Yeah. So I think that
with
was my involvement.
but you identified them as police. So did you have an awareness that they were police?
Oh yeah, yeah.
How? What made you think they were police or know they
I
were
guess they had
police?
their badges. I got hit in the face with their badge. Boom, you know.
Did you try to report it, bring it to the state's attorney, go public, do an interview? Did you tell anyone?
My mother showed up and gave them a a what do I call it? Really scared them. My mother doesn't, because she saw them trying to plant drugs and all this kind of, and take a photo of it, and she just wouldn't let them get away with anything. And they're the ones that actually told her that they were there to kill me because they thought I was the money behind this campaign, and that, you know, we better not follow through with it. I mean, who would have believed us? You know what I'm saying? So no, we didn't follow through.
So how did that affect you? Did you go underground? Did you find ways of continuing your work, or did you have to back off?
Well, all of a sudden, we were being searched, stopped and searched a lot, the band. And then I got arrested in Milwaukee under similar circumstances. And they wanted to, and they said that it was, and I was convicted too. And the conviction was, what's that, disorderly conduct. And I was literally doing nothing. I was in a place playing. Uh, the Cleveland Outlaws motorcycle gang were down there because they used to follow us. The police came down with guns pulled, and I just wanted to go out and say, they weren't doing anything. I just want to let you know. And they arrested me and threw me in a paddy wagon after punching me a few times.
What city
And
was this?
Milwaukee. And so I got in so much trouble in Milwaukee. And this is me, totally innocent. You know, I always spoke to the police. Yes, officer. Yes, officer. You know, I was always like that. Other people were yelling at the police, and they get me and throw me in the paddy wagon. And I had to spend the night in jail, and for playing with my band. That's what I was doing, you know? So it
Do
was
you know if
wild those
this?
days.
Do you know if this happened to other musicians? Do you know? Have you heard other stories similar?
Well, my black musicians, Rollo was beat up a number of times just for being black. And they find out they get the wrong guy, and then they don't care. They beat him up anyway. So all of that was going on constantly.
Yeah, Chuck Collins was beaten up a couple of times. I had to go and rescue him afterwards. But his attackers were called the Legion of Justice, and they were hired by President Richard Nixon. And
Oh
they
wow.
told Chuck Collins that they were working for Nixon, and you better watch what you say on your show. And they also said, watch what you say about Mayor Daley. So, do you have any encounters with the Daley people?
I was friends with the Sons. Yeah, I even supported them in a campaign. I also, supporting Reverend Chuck Erie. We did a performance with Jesse Jackson.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so I remember, you know, meeting Jesse Jackson and that. But that was the extent of my political involvement was performing for campaigns. And like I say, I performed for Richard Daley, the young guy, and but I also performed for the guy who was running against him.
Now, you sound like a true musician where your life is music and the audience is up to them. It's they can like you, come to see you or not. It's you're going to play your music. Is that right?
Yeah,
It's like you're
I
a
think
musician.
yeah, and to add something in there, I think the best thing we could do as artists for the audience is do our art, is share our individuality, and trying to please the audience isn't our job. Our job is to find out what we could do to express ourselves fully and please ourselves as much as we can. And I think that's the best that we can do for any audience. And I think that's essentially what an audience really wants.
Now, on the other side, there's this force that sees what you're doing as dangerous to them. So, why would they attack musicians? I mean, unless the musicians were influencing a culture that they didn't want to succeed. So, music became political without even you intending it to, just by its existence. And skin color becomes a threat just by its existence, not because it does anything or creates any action. Did this piss you off? Did this get you paranoid? Did this get you angry? Did this get you to react in some strong way?
No, I don't think that the band, we did a couple general political songs in those days, but we weren't really political. Other than having long hair, that was the problem. You know, but musically, we weren't really doing anything radical at all. Uh, Unlike Country Joe and the Fish, So, but we were just writing the music we wanted to write, and not necessarily making any political statements or anything like that. We just wanted to have fun playing music, and that was it. You know.
All right, for a moment, let's talk about your appearance on Underground News.
Okay.
Um, I haven't seen the video in a while, and then we're going to pull it up to edit into this interview. Who
Okay.
was in the band in 1972 that would
That
be on
was
our
Jim
performance?
Schwall, of course.
We're with the Siegel-Schwall Band, and this is Jim Schwall, Corky Siegel, right?
Rollo Radford, this amazing being,
And Rollo, right? Just known by Rollo?
and Shelly Plotkin. That other drummers would come to see him when we played with Siegel-Schwall, other famous drummers.
Okay. And Shelly Plotkin, who we got in trouble a few years back together, I guess.
What happened to those two guys?
Shelly died, and Rollo's still around. And I just talked to him recently. He's a beautiful human being.
I got a bird, what a whistle. Baby got a bird, honey got a bird to sing. Oh, baby got a bird, honey got a bird to sing. Without Karina, show don't mean anything. No, no. I learned to love you, baby, before I go, honey, before I call your name. Oh, baby, before I call, honey, before I call your name, I wouldn't change the love for money. Baby, you're my woman, child, you're my woman. Hey. Have mercy, mercy. Mama, oh my heart, baby, oh my heart, I'm so. Oh mama, oh my heart, baby, oh my heart, I'm so. I got a rainbow round my shoulder, shine like silver. Mama, look at that, shine on. Ah. I got a bird, what a whistle. Baby got a bird, honey got a bird to sing. Oh, baby got a bird, honey got a bird to sing. Goodbye, Corina. Show don't mean another thing. No. Corina. Corina, oh Corina, 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 oh Corina, Corina, Corina,
So you're still performing. You're still Corky Siegel. You're still a musician. You're still, I guess, as wild as you ever were.
Mhm.
Or are you calmed down?
Uh, I haven't calmed down. I move a little slower.
So what's your life like? I see you on Facebook doing live videos. What is your form of expression now? Is that it? Or you have others?
No, I'm performing mostly with chamber blues was my main group, but um, I did a concert a little while ago with chamber blues, Elgin Community College, their auditorium. It was a great concert with Ernie Watts as guest. Before that, I did a duet with Ernie Watts in August. And then I did two duets with this violinist, Randy Sabine, recently. And I'm planning on doing a bunch of solo dates, more dates with Randy, dates with Ernie. And I'm trying to get things together for chamber blues. But one of our players lives in California, so I got to make sure there's enough cash to make it worth it for her. It's not just to pay to get her in, but also get enough dates with chamber blues so that, it could be worth it for Chishuan Yang to come in. So that's the challenge right now. I still got some video productions ready, in the works that I need to edit. One with me and Ernie. I want to redo one that I did with Chishuan and one with Randy. So I got those three video products. and I might redo the. Well, I have an album coming out, the Chamber Blues. That's scheduled for September 23rd. It's mixed and mastered. I have an album, a solo album coming out any day. I have another solo album coming out that's political. That is going to come out before November, of course. Then I have another one solo album coming out that'll come out after the first of the year. And then I have enough material for at least one more, two more chamber blues albums. I have a symphonic piece that I played all over the world that's never been recorded. The only way people are going to hear it is if it gets recorded. That's going to take a budget. So it's up to the community, because now I'm doing Kickstarter and all those fundraising things, because I certainly can't. Now that there's no record companies in a practical sense, the community has replaced the record companies. So that's that.
That's quite amazing, Corky, that the scene has changed so much that the standard ways that we lived with in the 70s, 80s, and beyond were an old model of like you had to come to our television studio to be on a television show because the equipment was only at TV stations and a few studios scattered around the cities. People couldn't do this at home. Nobody had a minicam. It wasn't invented yet. The Portapak was just being invented and it was black and white and nobody had one. So today with the iPhones, matter of fact, we're recording this with 3 or 4 different iPhones because they're better quality than all the $60,000, $70,000 cameras that we used to use. So it's a whole new world, but also everybody can do what you do, except not the way you do it. What do you think of this new world where everybody can do what we did in the 70s and 80s?
I love it. Totally love it. And not having a record company and having to rely on your fans and your friends and your cousins, I love that. It creates, now there's there was always a direct connection between the music and the music lovers. But now the music lovers are also supporting making the recordings and the music happen in more of a direct way. I think that's beautiful. I love it. And I'm just getting real comfortable with letting people know that I'm fine, I'm happy, I don't need any money. But if they want to see this album come to fruition, it's going to be up to them financially. That's how I'm looking at it.
Of course, now that is an issue. Is It's hard or impossible for people to earn a living
All right.
if you're competing on YouTube and Facebook for ears. Uh, the the payment structure of YouTube is so horrible. I had my John Prine video uh, that he recorded for Underground in 1972. I put that up on YouTube, and now it's 2 years later, and there's about 750,000 views on that and some of our other ones.
What are you
To
going to do
date,
with the $400?
thank you. That's exactly what I was going to tell you. I looked at it and I have $400 payment over 2 years. What a joke. So who's making the money from all these hits? Who's getting the money? I don't know if John Prine's wife got it or his kids got it. When I put this video on YouTube with you on it, are you going to get any of it? Is it going to get shared with you? Are you registered on YouTube? How's
I
this
don't
going to
count
work?
on it. I'm registered all over the place. I don't know that there's any income there. Where I am hoping to have income is on live performances. But since I'm COVID orthodox, um, I'm real careful about what live performance I'm doing. And I want to be safe because I can't wear a mask. But I want my audience to be safe because I don't want to have music cause someone to increase the risk of getting sick. It's crazy. Even if it was just a cold virus, Why would I want someone to get a cold at my concert? It's crazy. I don't get it. And then all you have to do is wear a mask, and really you've increased, your safety just incredibly. And so there's places that I just canceled a concert with a symphony because the symphony musicians wouldn't wear masks. I just canceled it, you know. So they didn't want the audience or the musicians to wear masks. They didn't want to ask them to wear masks. They're saying they'll let them wear masks, And I went, no, sorry.
A moment ago, you gave me a great opening. You said that one of the projects that you're working on is something to be released before the next election, and it's political. So my mind goes to the coup d'état that we're currently in, the loss of our freedom from tyranny by the federal government and the Supreme Court, the loss of abortion rights, and all the rights we're about to lose. So you are political if you're going to release something for the election. Can you give me a hint about that? What's the
Yeah,
politics?
well, I've become extremely political. My wife and I rebooted Common Cause here in Illinois about 12 years ago. We're still on the board, but my life shouldn't be a reflection of that. When we're with Common Cause, it's nonpartisan, and we're very careful about keeping it nonpartisan. But in my own life, I'm extreme radical left wing nut.
I know
And
the type.
yeah, and and I wrote a song December 2020, among other political songs, uh, called "The Loser," the Big Time Losers Blues. Probably the best song I ever wrote. I'm a loser. I'm a big time loser. I'm the biggest loser in the world. A loser like the world has never seen before. A bigger loser since the losers in the Civil War. I'm a loser. I'm a big time crybaby loser. $70 million believers couldn't help me win. 20,000 lies couldn't hide the unrepented sins. Cheating, bribery, bullying, even the art of the double deal couldn't get me ahead. 'Cause I'm a natural born loser, and you can't believe a thing I said. I'm a loser, a terrific, big time loser. I keep digging this rabbit hole deeper and deeper, while the Supremes keep singing loser weepers. With boots on the ground, at the end of the day, when we break it all down, losing is my DNA. 'Cause I'm a lollapaloozer, a real doozer of the biggest big time loser. So just follow me. I got more losing to do. You've already lost your integrity and your dignity too. So you got nothing more to lose. Write me a check, stick with me as we jump in together off this cliff into the abyss of my alternative reality. 'Cause I'm a loser, and I've always been a terrific big time cry baby loser. So are you going down with me where the tyrants burn, where the truth is buried, where the blind can't learn, where human kindness leaves no trail or no clues, where the big time losers sing the big time losers blues? I'm a loser, can't you see? Come and sing the big time losers blues with me. Song is written for people who are losers because they're following this guy off the cliff. Essentially, that's what the song is about. So it's really pleading with my friends to not follow him. That's what the song's about. Please don't drink the Kool-Aid, you know. But it's Trump singing. It's him singing about himself and asking people to follow him. And the song is asking people to not follow him. And then I followed it up with a song called Better Angel's Prayer, which embraces people following Trump, gives them a big hug, and said, "Come with us." And then I have another song following that up called Like a Cool, Fragrant Breeze, which is about following the truth no matter where it takes you. And the truth is like a cool, fragrant breeze that supports your life. So it's sort of like a trilogy. It's first saying, here's the loser, here's humanity, we have to embrace each other, and here's the way we can do that by following the truth. And then I have a whole bunch of other political songs. You could find it on YouTube. You could go to my channel on YouTube, and it's called Songs for Truth and Social Harmony. Songs for Truth and Social Harmony. And there's about seven or eight songs.
Let's talk about our generation, Corky. Um, you and I shared an amazing generation from the 60s and 70s. The kids of today, a lot of them don't even know what we went through in the 60s and 70s and what we learned from the 60s and 70s. And now I have grandchildren, and it's up to me and my generation to teach them so they don't have to go through the same horror to find out what we found out, and ways out of it or ways around it. Do you have advice for the younger generations, or some guidance of what they can do to prevent themselves from losing it all?
Yeah. Um, do you know the joke about the Jewish pessimist and the Jewish optimist? The
Probably.
the Jewish pessimist says, "Oh, this is horrible. It can't get any worse." And the Jewish optimist said, "Sure, it could." So I used to think the world, I used to think the world was made up of 50% of the people trying to bring good into the world and 50% of the people trying to undermine the good. And that varied a little bit here and there. But after these last 5 years, 6 years, I feel like it's 10% of the people trying to bring good into the world and, and various levels, and 90% of the people trying to undermine the good, either unintentionally or extremely intentionally. And I always used to give these talks to my Common Cause folks. And I said, it's an uphill battle. Greed is a constantly flowing river downstream. And we have to constantly fight it in ourselves and in the world. And that's never going to change. So it's not about winning things. It's about the question, well, it's here's the circumstances. What do we do? And what we do is just always try and bring good into the world no matter what. No matter what. All we can do is try and bring good into the world in our own way, through our work, through our relationships, no matter what's happening. Now, you could get involved politically and try and bring good that way, and we certainly should. We should certainly vote and do all those things. But to me, this is the deck we've been handled. This is the cards we've been handled. It's that kind of a world. Bringing good into the world is an uphill battle, and if we realize that, then we can step back and go, join us for this joy ride. It's a joyous ride. just trying to bring good no matter what, no matter what, no matter what happens. What happens shouldn't affect our state of mind and our ability and our responsibility to do what's good. So it should work for all ages. And, this is what we've been given. This is why we're on this earth. And these challenges are part of it. And they're going to get worse. They're going to get better. Who knows?
How does music and musicians play a role in this change we need?
We're very lucky because it would be hard to imagine any kind of music that isn't bringing good into the world. There's always an audience for every kind of music. It's always uplifting to some people. We could get together and try and compose music that's horrible, and we'll find an audience for it, and we'll find people that are uplifted by it. That's just the quality of music. Music is going to uplift, unify, and heal. And the artist can try and do whatever he wants to do to ruin that, and he's not going to be that effective at ruining it. Music is going to come through and be uplifting and be healing and unifying. So playing music is a wonderful thing. We don't have to worry about, are we bringing good into the world? Where a lot of people's jobs might be challenging in that way, but we don't have to worry about that as artists and musicians. That's a benefit.
But I'm gonna let you get to a wrap up kind of point. There's a question I used to ask during the 90s when I had the Earth Network show on Channel 66 in Chicago. And it was kind of my ending question to everybody. It's like I used to say, are you hopeful? You know? And for years, talking about Ingrid Newkirk from PETA and Howard Lyman from Beyond Beef and John Robbins from Earth Save. And they always answered, yes, yes, I'm hopeful. By the end of the 90s, I'd ask the same question to them and they'd say, no, I am no longer hopeful. I think we're in for some deep shit and you better get ready for it because they're not responding right in the world to us. They're letting us get into more and more trouble. So are you hopeful or are you cynical or what's your position on the future for the rest of the generations to follow us?
Hope is something that's made up. I want action. Don't replace hope for action. Hope is like, well, I hope. I mean, I know it could have a different meaning. It could have a meaning that involves action. But I think too many times we just think of hope as something that's out there. It's next. Well, what about now? Forget next. Let's talk about now, because now affects next. So to me, hope, am I hopeful? I don't get into that. I get into what do we need to do? So that's extreme practicality. So that's my answer to that one.
Thank you, because that's a better answer than any of the others. And it's what we need now more than anything. And just that you and I have brought back a moment from 50 years ago, I think that's important because
Yeah.
I can't forget what happened, but people around me don't even know what they forgot. It's like we've got to bring this forward because it's a cycle and the cycle is repeating and it's expanded and it's worse and more powerful
Right.
and more destructive. But also the potential for the solution is like so much closer now because the alternative to the solution is extinction.
Yeah, exactly. And let me just say that to me, what takes the dark cloud away, what takes all the pressure off of my shoulders, that anxiety, it sounds crazy, but is just to know that we're not going to slow greed down. Greed. We're not going to slow it down. It's just going to come steady. It's going to continue no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, no matter what's going on. And we may see things getting better, things getting worse. But underlying all of it It's just coming down like the rapids. And our job is to do our best, and I hate to be redundant, to bring good into the world. And that simplifies everything. We don't have to say, well, in the 60s and 70s, this is what we knew and what we learned. And now it's different. It's never different. It's just sometimes the beast shows itself and sometimes it doesn't, but it's always there. And we got our work cut out for us now, but we always did and we always will. And to me, that's a relief to look at it that way, to go, okay, it's all the same. Everything, it's all this bad stuff going on. What do we do? Well, we do the same thing we had to do, we have to do, and we will have to do. It's all the same. It's simple. It's just about finding the good inside ourselves and bringing that, and just checking, making sure that's what we're doing. How much, better can we do? I could tell you a story
Sure.
about underground.
In the world, I don't want you to come back home. I don't want you to come back home. Save yourself for someone else. I just as soon stay here alone. Yes, I hate you, babe, and you'll never change my mind. Baby, woo! And you never change my mind. Find yourself another hippie. This bar gonna leave you behind.
when we did Underground, we had to do a contract with you, as I recall.
A release.
Yeah, and it was $1,200, and we did the show, and something happened with your show where you weren't really able to pay us the $1,200, which was fine, because Siegel-Schwall, we had a philosophy: if we played somewhere and didn't get paid, or they couldn't afford to pay us, we would let them go. That was our philosophy. If someone couldn't, we always wanted to make money for people. If we couldn't make money for people, we didn't ask them to. Of course, that I can't remember when that ever happened. But what did happen is there were times we didn't get paid because they just didn't want to pay us, even though it was a full house. And the decision that Siegel-Schwall made is, let's not bother ourselves. We're making plenty of money at the time. Let's just move on. And that's what we did. So we never approached a situation where we didn't get paid and tried to get involved in it. So I think, we had a discussion where you guys weren't able to pay, and we thought that's fine. That's fine. But what I did was, well, what happened is the musicians union had a problem with that. And because of that, and I knew they were going to call me in to talk to me about it, I went ahead and paid Jim and Rollo and Shelly $300 each.
Wow.
I didn't have to pay myself $300, so I paid them, to show that I paid them. And I went in to the hearing, and they fined me, in addition to the $900 that I paid to the musicians. They fined me $1,200, the musicians union. So now we're at $2,100. And the reason they fined me, they had to have a reason, right? What did I do wrong? You know what I did wrong?
You paid your musicians.
No. What I did wrong was I agreed to do a show for Underground News.
Huh?
Because right before that was John Lennon talking about un-American activities. That's why they fined me.
Did they mention that?
They told me that. It was in the and it was all documented. That was the reason. That was the main reason. They said, and he did Underground, and John Lennon was talking about un-American activities.
I never heard that before.
Isn't that amazing? So now what happened is I gained a reputation, especially with chamber blues, for treating my musicians extremely well. If I couldn't pay them at least $500 each, I wouldn't accept the gig. I wouldn't go to them and say, "Hey, could you do it for 200?" I would just not accept the gig. And we got a lot of gigs, and later times we had times where we'd say, well, here's a gig for 500, here's one for 300, we'll put them all together and da 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 da, that kind of a thing. But the union got to recognize that my main concern was for my artists. No one ever did anything for me and didn't get paid. People would be willing to do things for free. I would never accept that. So the musicians union gained a lot of respect for me. And I have a great relationship with them now. And they felt a little, in my experience, was they felt a little guilty about, the dark past. When they used to carry guns and shake hands like this. But right now it's a great relationship with them, and they never hassle me about anything, and I'm always in contact with them and checking with them to make sure everything's cool.
underground news was never respected by anybody except maybe the audience. Channel 44, where I was employed at, I created the show, because I was made, kind of like operations manager of the station. So the first show that ever happened was because I was the boss and I said, here's the first show. Our budget for underground news was $50 per week, and that was for 7 half-hour shows per week when we originally started. That budget never increased. By the time we were at Telemation, we weren't even at Channel 44 anymore. We had two partners, Rich Melman from Let Us Entertain You, and his partner, Jerry Orzoff from Newtown, a real estate guy. And those guys were the cheapest people in the world, and they barely paid Chuck or I subsistence, survival wages, but they wouldn't put out a cent for anything. So when it came to music, Chuck was doing check trading, where you write a check and then you write a check back, so it balances out. We were trying every trick in the world, but right around the time you're talking about, I also got word back that John Prine had been fined by the Musicians Union, and so had Steve Goodman. So you're the third person to tell me that all three of you are
For doing the show.
doing the same thing. Yeah.
I love it.
But they didn't bother Lydia Pence of Cold Blood or Peter Yarrow of Peter, Paul, and Mary. They didn't bother any of those guys. But it seems like the Chicago guys, they're the ones who got hit. Does it make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So I guess the only thing I can tell you now is, let's have you make some money off of this video we're doing right now and make it back up to you. Because I never got paid for underground. Chuck Collins never got paid for underground. And to date, I could barely I can't make any money off underground. I got a documentary that we're working on now, but believe this, nobody will give me the 1.5 million to finish it. So got to wait longer until that happens. You know the world I'm in here, Corky. They don't care about us.
Well, it's crowdfunding now. I'm relying. I'm fine to just not do anything else. But if the community wants me to produce the music that I already have written, they'll support me or not, and I'm happy either way and appreciative either way. But the only money that I'll make, the only income I'll make the rest of my life is really live performances and selling music at my live performances, which I don't know how long that's going to last. But so the community has already created an album, a chamber blues album, with Ernie Watts, Tracy Nelson, Marcella Detroit, Toronzo Cannon, all these people on this album. The community was able to fund. They came up with about 20 grand to record the album and produce it and get it manufactured. And now I'm just on July 1st, I'm putting up a Kickstarter campaign to raise funds for promoting it. Otherwise, it'll just sit in my basement. So that's where I'm at with, and if I don't raise any money for promoting it, so be it. It's up to the universe to tell me what I'm supposed to do.
was guerrilla television. It was an opportunity where a bunch of people, almost a family, got together and did a television show the way they thought a television show ought to be done. We knew that there was a little opening to where some truth could get out. We took advantage of that opening any way that we could.
Racism in this country must be challenged from the top down rather than the bottom up.
They tried to write a book that nobody would publish. Now Jesus don't like killing.
The goal of the Underground News is a simple one: to tell the truth, whether you want to hear it or not.
Most of your taxes go to pay for wars.
The power is with the people, we're just not using it.
It's about the only place where outspoken people had a chance to go on the air.
The assassination of John Kennedy was a military takeover of the United States government.
No topic was off limits.
Everybody thinks their phones are tapped.
Oh yeah, they all.
We were naively fearless.
Without any real formal training, we just did what we thought was the right thing to do.
There's a dirty, immoral, and an unjustifiable war going on.
We didn't really think about repercussions.
We were the counterculture's only outlet, and our ratings went through the roof.
There were Thurry Chapin, Joan Baez, R. Crumb,
People are media junkies.
Buffy St. Marie, David Crosby,
Jim Croce,
and Cheech and Chong.
We're more powerful than they are.
This bomb is dropped by the hundreds.
The white people really aren't trying to change.
I didn't know that there are people who would do almost anything to stop us.
What seems to be the problem, officer?